So this morning, our service is about toxic masculinity, concepts of maleness and how they affect us. It's been something that's been on my mind pretty heavily over the past few years with the rise of the Me Too movement. Something I've wanted to do some work on, and in planning of all the different worship services over the year, I had the opportunity to talk with Charles about some concepts that we might like to work on together. And when I mentioned this, Charles was like, "Oh, that. I want to talk about that." It weighs on our hearts. It's something we want to work on, want to work towards. I mean, it's quite obvious that male dominance, toxic masculinity, patriarchy, whatever you want to call it, it's very obvious that this does damage to us all. It's obvious that it does damage to women in our society. A culture of abuse, degradation, sexual assault, workplace harassment, pay inequality. How many of you just had an idea of one of those things when I said toxic masculinity just popped into your head of something that happens to women? Right. It's very obvious that it affects women in our culture. And I don't want to be that guy that says, "What about the men?" But it affects men too. We're going to go into some of that a little bit later, but what I want to talk to you right now in this moment is how it affects us spiritually. We don't think of masculinity as something necessarily spiritual. So let's talk about where we see men in spirituality. And the first thing that comes to my mind is the Greek pantheon. Can we think of the men, those Greek gods, what they were known for? What was Ares known for? War, right? Hades, the underworld. What was the messenger guy? Hermes? Yeah, the trickster god. Not necessarily, let's not forget about Zeus and his issues with consent. All right? These are not necessarily role models we want young men to be living into. What are the women in the Greek pantheon known for? Love, the harvest, architecture. What? Wisdom, fate. Are these things we want to emulate? Yeah. What is up, guys? Why are we getting a bad rap? And let's think about how we see this in Christian text as well. Often when we think of God the Father, when we think of the Old Testament God, what do we think of? Right? Isn't he the guy that decided to turn somebody's wife into a pillar of salt because she looked the wrong way? Isn't he the guy that decided, you know what, humanity's kind of wicked, let's flood them all out? Wasn't he the one that decided to kick out all of humanity just because they ate the wrong piece of fruit? Kind of harsh. We're not thinking of loving male role models, are we, in our spiritual life? There's been a lot of thought about this, of how some of that toxic masculinity has been brought down into mainline religions for years. We're not going to go there. We can do a whole series on it later if you're interested. Oh, I just opened myself up for that, didn't I? But I want to talk to you about where we've seen positive male spirituality. Last week, we had this beautiful service that talked about the environment. And how many of you remember we did this song, "The earth is our mother, we will take care of her." Remember that? We had the drums going. It's kind of a nice vibe. Anyone remember the fourth verse? The sky is our Father. Father, sky. I love the image of Father Sky because it plays on the dichotomy of Mother Earth. The earth is on this side, the sky is on this, and who's in between? We are the children. We are the children of Mother Earth and Father Sky. And what does Mother Earth do for us? She provides, right? Where do we get our food from? Mother Earth. The crops, they feed the animals. Where do we get all of our resources from? Mother Earth. We're getting some from Father Sky now. We're working on solar energy. But where do we get our homes from? The earth, the trees, the wood, Mother Earth. But Father Sky is over us. He brings us the sun, the nurturing that helps things to grow, brings us the rains that feed the crops. Father Sky works with Mother Earth, in concert with Mother Earth. But the other thing I love about Father Sky is he watches over us. There is this wonderful thing I love. There is a Pawnee Native American tribe that has a council of 6 elders. Where do those 6 elders live? They're stars. They're stars in the sky. How many of you have heard the idea that our ancestors are in the stars? Our ancestors watch over us. They are the fathers, our forefathers, who watch over us. They protect and they guide. So when we start thinking of what it means to be a spiritual masculine, we've got the idea of the Father Sky. We may not be in direct contact with, like we are Mother Earth. But it's always there, always watching, loving, guiding, and providing for us. The love of Father Sky and Mother Earth are very different, but they are both equally powerful. Charles and his phenomenal quartet are going to sing for us about the good Father. And remember that the good Father comes in many forms. Our ancestors who've taught and shaped us. That which provides in concert with Mother Earth is the feeling of love that you might not be able to put your finger on, but you feel it nonetheless. Join us as we meditate on that love.
I've heard 1,000 stories of what they think you're like, but I heard the tender whispers of love in the dead of night, and you tell me that you're pleased and that I'm never alone. You're a good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. I've seen many searching for answers far and wide, but I know we're all searching for answers. Only you provide, 'cause you know just what we need before we say a word. You're a good Father. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. It's who you are. And I'm loved by you. It's who I am. I know who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. It's who I am. You're loving in all of your ways. You're loving in all of your ways. You're loving in all of your ways. to love so undeniable. I can hardly think of peace so unexplainable. I can hardly speak as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still as you call me. Deeper still into love. Love, love, you're a good, good Father.
It's who you are.
So good.
It's who you are.
So good.
It's who you are.
And I'm loved by you.
It's who I am.
I'm your child.
It's who I am.
Just your child.
It's who I am.
You're a good, good Father.
It's who you are.
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 And I'm loved by you.
It's who I am.
Who I am.
It's who I am.
Who I am.
It's who I am. Do, 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 do.
You're a good, good Father.
It's who you are.
It's who you are.
It's who you are.
Just who you are.
It's who you are.
And I'm loved by you. I'm your child.
It's who I am.
I'm your child.
It's who I am. It's who I am.
Who are these guys?
These are my best friends and my singing buddies. I want to introduce them, if I can right now. Thank you. James Brame. Everybody. You're going to see us go back and forth. We're like yin and yang. We're like brothers that are always fighting. I call him Machete Jones. That's Jeremy Rogers, everybody. He can sing higher than all of us and higher than all of you. So his nickname is Helium, because if you don't put a string on him, he'll just go straight on up. And this is my best friend. This is Jeff Hill, everybody. If you've done any choir work in the past, you know this is hardware. Whenever you hear me talk about hardware, this is hardware, everybody. So thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you.
So wait, I just have one question. What's his nickname?
My nickname is Fire.
Fire?
Fire.
Can't imagine why. Can't imagine why. Charles and I are going to have a dialogue about masculinity, toxic masculinity and divine masculinity. I want to kind of bring up that concept of the divine masculinity, but one of the first things I want to do is I want to give note that we are talking in binary gendered language, right? We're talking about male and female. We're talking about parts of divinity that are male and female. But I want you to know that all of us, no matter our gender identity, have those aspects both. So this is all about the spectrum of where that gender lies. This is not about being all one or all the other, because I'm going to be honest with you all, I am so much more divine feminine than masculine in so many... Now, hold on. Don't you laugh at that. That's powerful stuff, being divine feminine. Don't you tell me, don't you say, oh, well, you're a man, that's less than. Nuh-uh. Divine feminine, powerful stuff, ladies. Ladies. Yeah. Don't be afraid to claim that. That is not weak. That is good. It's just different, right?
So the reason I'm really excited about today is because, I've been here a lot here at UUCA, and I feel safe with you. And every time I come here, I see you all and the work that you do. Not only the work that you do in society with social justice, but I see the inner work that you all do with white privilege and racism. And it inspires me to look at the work that I have to do. And when it comes to toxic masculinity, I need help. And because of my relationship with Walter, I feel safe. So I can tell you where I am and where I'm not, what my questions are, and where I need to go.
It's funny because somebody came up to me before service, and I'm not going to point anyone out, but they said, "Don't look at me when you talk about toxic masculinity." But you bring up something. As men, we're scared that we're going to get blamed for being men. And it's not the masculine part that's the problem. It's the toxicity that's the problem. It's not using it in the proper way, and we're going to talk about that. Now, the first part I want to talk about with the divine versus the toxic aspects are the warrior versus the soldier. I know you love this
one. I love this one. Can I say before, so he'll tell you what's right. I'll tell you where I go wrong. Be it because I grew up as a black man, or just as a man in general, I'm always taught that I have to fight. I have to fight for respect. I have to fight for my place. I have to fight for success. All of these things I have to fight for. And so I'm always on the defense sometimes, or looking for ways that I can get stronger or have more things or be better than him.
Well, so what you're talking about is aggression,
yes.
Right? Is aggression bad or good? Some of you here first service. It depends, right? Aggression is needed sometimes. That's the difference between a warrior and a soldier. They're both using aggression, but it's how. Let me ask you all a question. How many of you have ever been to a protest? You're UUs. I'm watching you. Guess what, y'all? That's a little aggressive, but that makes you warriors. The difference between a warrior and a soldier is what they fight for and why they fight. A warrior believes in their cause, and they believe that their cause will make the world a better place for everyone, for their tribe, for their people, for all people. A soldier fights because they've been told to fight. That's what they're supposed to do. Just listen to what I say and do what I tell you to do and fight. Boys will be boys. Just swing the stick at the bird because that's okay. Aggression for its own sake.
Now, I love what you say about our military. Say that thing again. I like that.
I get nervous when I say that soldiers just follow orders. Because so many of us, and UUs have a history of discounting people who've worked in the armed forces. It is my personal belief. I have met a lot of really good people who have been in the armed forces who serve because they're warriors for the cause. They believe that they are doing what they can to bring peace in different areas, that they love their country and what it stands for. There are people who serve and make the ultimate sacrifice because they are fighting for what they believe, not just doing what they're told. So I believe that there are a lot of people who are in the armed services who are warriors, but are called soldiers in everyday life. They're proud to wear that soldier name as a warrior. I want to make that distinction very clear.
I like that. That cleared me up. And then the other thing that you really helped me with that I want to say before we move on a little bit is that, okay, now you've given me the permission to fight when I know that my intentions and that I'm fighting for the greater good, or if I'm fighting for something that's bigger than myself. So, but when it comes to my family, and when it comes to fighting because I'm not letting them fight, So you said something really great about protection versus possession.
He's like, got my cue cards.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. That's good. Yeah, there's a difference between the idea of protecting versus possessing. There's this male image of the protector, Father Sky, holding over as protecting. Now, there was somebody in first service who, when I said that men have a protector gene, she was giving me dagger looks. And I could read that she was saying, moms are protectors. I'm like, I am not denying that moms are protectors. Nothing fiercer than mom with her back up. But the idea that you protect what is close to you and protect those who you love is part of that divine masculine. The difference in that relationship is when it becomes possessive. I think the great example about that we were talking about earlier is about letting kids play with knives, right? I have a son who loves to cook. When do I let him play with the sharp knives? If I don't ever let him play with that, am I protecting or am I possessing of his safety? What's the line? The line is being able to give him all of the information I can, making sure that I'm seeing him make the smart decisions and take a few risks. I don't mind a couple Band-Aids as long as he doesn't cut a digit off. He's not strong enough yet to do that. But there's a difference between that protection and possession.
I love that part, man. I really do.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to move on to the next one. And this one I know is your favorite.
Yeah.
And this one doesn't sound like it's the divine masculine aspect, because it's a part that a lot of people think is unmasculine, and that's about vulnerability. Vulnerability, please.
All right, so you see me, I'm a black man, low voice, 6'2", 265 pounds, 267 pounds, whatever.
I saw you getting that cookie between services.
And I feel like I need to walk through life and or walk on the planet in a certain way. I feel like there's an expectation of me, you know? Now, I'm okay with breaking stereotypes so that I don't look violent and threatening. But at the same time, these guys over here can tell you I'm like the biggest crybaby in the world. I will cry over seeing a child sing. I will cry over a song or a lyric or a conversation. And I can only cry in those safe places. And this is my toxic masculinity, is that, you know, I'm not free. I don't feel free to express my vulnerability, my softness, my divine feminine to everybody. At the moment, I'm only free to express it with the people that I trust. And I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. It's the idea of vulnerability being part of masculinity that we're so countercultural to. We don't believe that that's possible. Men got to be tough. We got to be independent. We can't show our emotions. God, I have tried so hard to make sure that my son knows he can cry whenever he wants, and he still plays tough guy. He still does, because we have so much pressure on that. But here's the thing about vulnerability. If we think of reframing what vulnerability is nothing more than risk. And what's manlier than risk? Right? Think about that for a second. Think about that hunter-gatherer, that guy who's going out, he's got his spear, and he's going to hunt the lion. Why? Maybe he needs food. Maybe the lion's been picking off people on the village one by one. But he's going to hunt the lion. Is he in danger when he's doing that?
Yeah, yes.
It's risk. Why does he do it? Because his people need sustenance. Because his people need protection. Taking the risk for the greater good. And that risk and greater good leads to building community. In order to create good community, you need vulnerability.
I just got something I didn't get last time. If I take the risk to be vulnerable around people that I don't trust, there's someone else in the community that will see that vulnerability, see that it's okay to be vulnerable, and that's the way I can spread divine masculine and feminine in concert.
Yeah, yeah. And you can
So
do
be
that.
the change that I want to see.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's a good thing, be the change. And, so this is the counterpoint to that.
Okay.
Someone will take advantage. Someone will take advantage. And if we believe in it strong enough, we understand that's part of the risk, and we keep doing it. Because eventually what will happen is someone will start to see that it leads to many more rewards than that hyper-individuality. That's the counterpoint to risk. The toxic masculinity counterpoint to that vulnerability is hyper-independence. I don't need to be vulnerable because I can do it on my own. I have the answers. I can pull myself up by my bootstraps.
And I do even worse than that. I can do it better than you. Step aside and let me do it. Because, I know you think you know what you're doing, but my control issues tell me that I can do it better than anyone else in the world.
Right.
And then and this is the other thing too, is that I do realize that hyper masculinity and that super independence, it gives you a payoff that's almost like a high. Like it's a drug to be controlling and to be unnecessarily dominant. You know what I mean? You think you're doing something. You think you're building something. You think you're creating some kind of swag, if you would.
Right. That's the problem with this whole thing, is that it's so easy once you have that power, or once you take that power, because let's be honest, this toxic masculinity is taking power from others.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
It's hard to give that up because you feel so good about it. It's delicious. It's powerful. But it's short term. It's short term. You go much further when you go together and you work on that community. And that's the last part of what good divine masculinity is that it always works in concert. It does not work alone. Father Sky doesn't do this magic on his own. It's in concert with Mother Earth. There is no dominance. There is no hierarchy. It is in concert with. That is the best way the divine masculine works, because it's half of an equation. It's part of the spectrum. It needs its counterpoint to be powerful.
Yeah, that's good. And that leaves alleviates a lot of stress, because that's another thing too. It's a lot of hard work to be unnecessarily overbearing. And sometimes, I'll be honest with you, Walter, sometimes I've started and I can't stop, so I got to keep it going and keep it going and keep it going, and I kind of want to stop, but now everyone's looking at me like, what do we do next?
Right.
And you said something wonderful last service, that sometimes it's time to share the power, and that doesn't mean necessarily that you're giving up.
Right. It's weird, because I have to be very careful in how I put this. Because I said before, it's like letting women have the power they're supposed to have. And someone said, you ain't letting me get nothing.
Oh.
You're getting out of my way so I can get what's mine. And that's what a lot of it is. It's stop doing what is that toxic separation in order to be more in concert with others. And I said kind of last services, this is something, when we talk about allyship, we talk about the importance of allies, how they're the ones that have to do the work. They're the ones that have to really make the changes. And that's true. And I know a lot of women who have bought into toxic masculinity. I know a lot of women who have told their little boys, don't cry. Or who expect a certain level of dominance. This is cultural beyond just our gender or our gender identity. This is something that is in the waters for everyone.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying that, because I was saying to Hardware and his wife the other night that, when I want to date a woman, the first thing I have to look at is where is her level of, what she expects from me as far as masculinity is concerned. I don't want to go over and disrespect. I don't want to go under and not let her think that I can cover her or protect her. And it's hard, and I got to do that with every single woman that I meet.
I don't know how
every
many girls I
child.
chased off in college saying, I'd love to talk about your emotions.
Yeah.
But this is what it's all about. It's all about working in concert, recognizing that we each contain both aspects of the divine feminine and the divine masculine, and that you don't need to worry about which one is on top. You just need to worry about embracing them all and working with as much as possible. That's what it is. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, man.